everybody makes their own decisions and everybody makes their own choices, but they're not the only ones that suffer the consequences. Everyone around them does.
I mean, it was one thing months before when we looked back on the situation that happened when he was a teenager and saying, that was so long ago, but here's something like present day, like today. This is an issue that's happened right now. In the other situation, we had already brought closure to that. That was something of the past.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Friday, July 7th, 2023. This video will probably not be too long because there's absolutely not a ton of brand new information, but there is a new series on Hulu, which is all about the Ashley Madison hack, which happened back in 2015. And Josh Duggar, his indiscretions are briefly discussed in this series. So I wanted to talk with you about the details that were revealed and just let you guys know what is going on with this docuseries. So the news for the Duggars has not been good for the last several months. Obviously, there's been a myriad of issues. We had Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets come out. Jill Duggar has a brand new book coming out in September. Ginger had a book that was out last January. It's just been like nonstop hit after hit after hit after hit. Many people are not unhappy about that because they feel like the Duggars have been portraying themselves to be one way and it's finally like karma or whatever, the universe, the balance of the world, whatever you believe in, that's made it so that what was in the darkness has now been exposed. And I don't think it's even done at this point. I always believe that there's more that will be uncovered. And that's honestly why I just keep covering this family. It's not because I particularly enjoy who these people are. It's more like there's something underneath the surface here and something else is going to happen. I just know it. So this brand new series is on Hulu and it's through ABC Studios and it's a streaming show, which is 3 total episodes, and it's called The Ashley Madison Affair. This goes into the entire backstory of this website, which was designed in the very early 2000s, which was well before a lot of the social media what was going on. So like when we think about dating today, we think about, and this is coming from someone that is a married woman, but if you think about dating apps today, you think about just going onto your phone and downloading an app and using whatever it is that you use. It could be Tinder, it could be whatever. I don't even know what's out there. So that life was not available back in the early 2000s. And so, when we think about like Facebook, that was like, didn't really become popular until like, I don't know, 2004, 2005. And Ashley Madison actually got its start back in 2002. And we learned that the company actually formed its name by picking the top 2 female names for babies. So the top 2 names that families were naming their daughters, their baby girls, were Ashley and Madison. Now, when you think about Josh Duggar, he recently had a daughter last year and they named her Madison, which a lot of people thought was really gross considering this entire scandal and all the details that came out of it. So this series goes into, how this website started, who are the kind of people that get involved in these websites, the controversy that surrounded it, how they ended up getting so many different people to sign on. It talks about the CEO and the, I would say, salacious ways that he garnered interest, all the different ways that they advertised and how they would advertise off the back of an affair. So like Tiger Woods was caught having multiple affairs and, Ashley Madison would put out like an advertisement and be like, you should have used Ashley Madison. And so their biggest thing when they were trying to promote this in the early days was that this was a discreet website where married people could actually go and have affairs. Naturally, this was not a well-liked website because, people felt like this was a destruction to the family. They felt like it was not helping marriages, that it was actually hurting marriages. and they felt like there was nothing good that could come out of a website that helps people that want to cheat actually cheat. Now, this isn't to say that like anyone that wants to cheat can cheat. They don't have to use Ashley Madison. I mean, but this was just a specific website designed for cheating. And there was different ways that people could cheat. And so women were basically given carte blanche to this website because there wasn't as many women signing up as men. And so they were able to access the website for free. Men, in order to communicate with the women, had to pay. Now, in order to be guaranteed of an affair, you would have to even pay more. And every single communication that you had with someone, you had to pay for. So basically, as the site starts spreading across the world, it's in South Korea, it's in Australia, it's, in parts of Europe, it's, going into multiple countries throughout like the South Pacific and into like the continent of Asia. And you have all these different people communing in this website. And for the most part, it's men again. So it kind of goes into the history of how it all spreads. And then it goes into how the CEO would use any means necessary. He would go on to every single talk show he could talk about this website. He would go on to like The View, or, he was interviewed by, I think, NBC and CBS, and like he went anywhere. Like he was on Howard Stern. Like he did anything to promote this website. And in time and over time, more and more people sign up. And then this group of hackers decide that they're going to take down this website. And to this day, they don't know who hacked the website. It's like ongoing as far as they're concerned. But they got mad at the CEO. They got mad at the company. They wanted the company to shut down the website. They got into the system, and apparently there was not as much security as they promised. They didn't have the type of like infrastructure built to protect the data. There's a lot of technological aspects about this docuseries that I think if you're a techie, you might find this interesting. But for the most part, basically, Ashley Madison doesn't bend to all their demands of the hackers, and then the hackers ultimately end up releasing a dump of data back in August of 2015. Now, it was raw data that was put into a torrent, and then it was shared, and so basically people would like download it, but then to download it, it would get shared, and so it was like all over the country, all over the world by the time it gets online. And then journalists and people had to sift through all of these like raw email addresses to figure out who was on this. And Josh Duggar's name was one of the first they figured out as a part of this. So Josh Duggar's information shows up in the second episode, and they reveal that Josh Duggar's name was the first like high profile name that was located. It was then published on multiple websites, including Gawker. And then they talked about how Josh had multiple profiles. So he had two separate profiles, one where he was Josh the Man, and the other one was Ready for This DC. So he had Josh the Man, Ready for This DC. So he was paying for two separate profiles, and both of them had what was called a guaranteed affair. So he was paying extra money every single month in order to have an affair. It's not known just because somebody's name is in there that they had an affair, and it's also not known like if anyone from like what we learn in this docuseries is that even though he has profiles in there, you have no idea if he actually has had an affair through this website, because in this docuseries you also learn that Ashley Madison was botting the hell out of the female accounts. And so they were making all these fake female accounts. And so there was a lot of robots on the website, not a lot of real women. And so a lot of men were having a hard time finding real women to communicate with. And so they actually got sued by a class action suit for men that paid for something and didn't get anything because they were speaking to bots. But some people really did have affairs. And Josh had, according to the records that were leaked, been spending about $1,000 a month from the time of September, or from like 2013 until the time of the hack in 2015. And even after the hack happened, the profile remained live for a very long time. So he spent $1,000 a month for about 2 years of his marriage with Anna. if you obviously times that by 24, this is a $24,000 venture that he was spending. All the while he's working in DC, he's on, all these family, like he's working for the FRC Action, which is a lobbying organization which promotes like in Washington for against gay marriage and for pro-life. And he's talking about the sanctity of marriage and how everything needs to be about Christian values. And so people were like shocked, like, okay, if Josh is on here, who else is on here, right? And Josh doesn't deny it. So here's the thing. Some people, what they really made clear about this in this docuseries is, again, just because someone was on the list didn't mean that they were actually having an affair. But in Josh's case, he released a statement. And if you remember, this statement was contested by Josh's attorneys during the trial because they didn't want him to have to admit to having any sort of addiction to online content, nor did they want them to have any access to discussing any infidelity that he had against his wife. But on August 20th of 2015, he said, "I have been the biggest hypocrite ever. While espousing faith and family values, I have been unfaithful to my wife. I am so ashamed of the double life that I have been living, and I am grieved for the hurt, pain, and disgrace my sin has caused my wife and family, and for most of all, Jesus and all of those who profess faith in him. I have brought hurt and a reproach to my family, close friends, and the fans of the show with my actions. The last few years, while publicly stating I was fighting against immorality in our country, I was hiding my own personal failures. As I am learning the hard way, we have freedom to choose our actions, but we do not get to choose our consequences. I deeply regret the hurt that I've caused so many by being such a bad example. I humbly ask for your forgiveness. Please pray for my precious wife, Anna, and our family during this time." So the very first statement he put out said that he was addicted to adult content. And then they edited out the adult content and just said that he was unfaithful. So he changed the statement. So Josh was one of the few that was like, he admitted it, but we don't know if he actually met anyone from Ashley Madison. If you know anything about the one woman that came forward, Danica Dillon, she's an adult film actress and a dancer, exotic dancer. She met him at a strip club, and he went there because he watched her content that she produced in films for adults, and he was a fan of hers, and he wanted to go see her dancing. And then she says he paid her like $1,500 to go have relations together. He denied that this ever happened. She sued him. He denied it happened. He claimed he had all these receipts that showed that he wasn't in this area. She provided evidence that she was there. She ended up settling and withdrawing the lawsuit. She has publicly said that she refused to retract her claims because she won't deny that it happened. And she also just said he had the money to fight and she didn't. And unfortunately, she couldn't go any further. And then not long after the lawsuit gets dismissed, she posts on Twitter that she has a new car. So there's that. But Danica has been she passed a polygraph when she was interviewed by In Touch, which again doesn't mean a whole lot because people can fail polygraphs, but her stories remained very consistent over the years. But they did not meet through Ashley Madison. So we don't know if he actually was spending $24,000 to actually have a single affair. So the entire docuseries, I actually watched it this morning. If you're looking for a ton of juice on the Duggars, it's not super there. I basically just summed up everything that is about Josh in the series. But it's, again, just not a good look for the Duggars because it's, again, reminding everyone about what Josh has done in the past. And it really just sort of highlights this sordid underbelly of society of infidelity in marriages, which is completely opposite of what they espouse on their platform and on their show Counting On and 19 Kids and Counting. So the infidelity and the people on the website, the really sad part about all of this is there was a lot of people on there that got conned out of a lot of money. And so you almost feel bad for cheaters for a second because they're paying for something that they didn't get. But at the same time, you also learn about how the lasting impacts of people who were like found out for cheating and ended up they took their own lives, which is super sad. Like they couldn't face what they had done. So their only way out was like through ending their lives. Pastors, and there was lots of people, there was a couple other reality stars. There was a lot of people in Washington, 15,000 emails that were connected to like Washington, Department of Justice, the military. And they noted that in the military, it's actually illegal to have an affair. So long story short, they still never figured out who hacked Ashley Madison. Ashley Madison still exists to this day, and apparently they're thriving. So even the hackers' attempt to take down the company didn't work. They tried to sue the company. That didn't work to take them down. Ultimately, there's a market for this kind of content, these kind of websites, and they promised today that there's not as many female bots as there were back then. So whether Josh was paying for $24,000 of speaking to robots or actually having an affair remains to be seen. I've heard a lot of really cagey, disgusting stories about Josh over the years, especially during his time in Washington, D.C. I was actually talking to someone that was a reporter. She was in, I can't remember if it was in Iowa or it was like 2013 or 14, right? And he was on this like speaking tour with the FRC Action. So they would lobby, they would go to colleges, they would go to different campuses. It was all about getting like young people engaged, right? And he was at this rally, I think it was in Iowa, and she said that he wanted her to meet him at his room for an interview, and that she alleged that when she opened up the door to go into his room, he only had he had a shirt on and boxers. And then like she thought that was weird, she said, but you know, she's done a lot of really casual interviews, but she said that it was very like obvious that he wanted to do something with her and had invited her to his room to hit on her and try to get her to sleep with him. And she said that she did not stay very long. She said nothing happened because it was very clear, she alleged within a few minutes, that he was there and trying to do something with a purpose. And she said she just left. She did interview him, and that article was published. I remember reading the article thinking, wow, that's something of, I felt bad for her. So I've heard stories like that. I've also heard stories of him, you know, in Washington and being really crass and talking to guys at work and going out to lunch with people and being really just disgusting about how he talks about women. So I no doubt that he cheated. I just don't know if it happened on Ashley Madison. But what I think is most shocking about all of this is that he had $24,000 that he spent. And I don't know if you looked at his profile, but you know, his profile of what he was looking for was kind of like funny because he didn't really care. It was like he wanted girls that wore jeans and shirts, and then tall girls, short girls, curvy girls, skinny girls, outgoing girls, quiet girls. He didn't really care like what he was looking for. And he wanted to experiment with toys. He wanted to give and receive oral. There was a lot of things that, like, if you think about what his family was espousing, was kind of shocking. But most of that's already out there, so you can actually Google it. And I also learned they have a website that you can actually plug in literally anyone's email and check to see if they were part of the hack. So one of the guys that runs a website that was part of trying to figure out how it got hacked, who hacked, which they still haven't figured out, created a website where you can actually search to see if you've been compromised. And it's not just for Ashley Madison, but it can actually tell you if your data has ever been leaked through any of the websites that you use, which was kind of neat because I put in my email and I found out that I'd been leaked multiple times, and it obviously not on Ashley Madison, but it's kind of cool. I can put the email, I'll put the link in the description box below. So that's all I have for now. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.